Bitcoin is barely holding on by a thread as President Trump just came out and said that there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate just shot up to 4.4% and the non-farm payrolls came in much lower than expected. What is next in the crypto market? Today, we'll be discussing exactly this. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So currently, Bitcoin has dropped to below $69,000. If you've been watching the channel, you know that I went short right at the anchored VWAP. And you can see here at this point in time, it's looking like a phenomenal entry on Bitcoin. Now, over the past few weeks, we discussed the fact that Bitcoin would likely make its way towards the range highs and ultimately go ahead and bleed lower. Now, why is this? Outside of the technical perspective, I need you to understand that President Trump just came out and said there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. US oil prices immediately surged to a 2-year high. And not only that, some key data just came out. The unemployment rate came in at 4.4%, with the consensus at 4.3%. But arguably more importantly, the non-farm payrolls came in much lower than the consensus, coming in at negative 92,000, with the consensus at 59,000. In simple terms, this means that the US economy lost 92,000 jobs in February compared to the expectation of gaining 58,000 jobs. Now, this is interesting because it marks the second monthly job loss since the 2020 pandemic. Very important for you to understand. The US labor market is clearly weakening, and naturally, this does not bode over well for Bitcoin as we are absolutely capitulating. So yes, the data doesn't help. What's going on in terms of war escalations doesn't help. However, the technicals were there, and I want to take you through how I've been monitoring the charts and what led me to enter a Bitcoin short at around $73,700. If you've been tuning into the channel for quite some time, I was quite vocal about looking for a new shorting opportunity in this market. At this point in time, I've secured around 7K on this trade, which was only 10% of the position after we hit my first take profit at around $70,000. However, I am holding for much lower, and I'm currently up around $90,000 on this trade. This short trade that you're seeing right here, along with my short from around $97,000, were both shared in my community. This was ultimately the update that I gave. In my opinion, based on the liquidity, CVD, and the levels we're currently at, the risk to reward is starting to look very nice for shorts. It doesn't mean the price can't pump, but you know where my head is at. It's also a general area that I would personally look to take some profits on longs if I was in any active long positions. Then I went ahead and entered a new short position at around $73,750, all shared in my community. Remember, if you want to join this community and see how I am personally trading the market, you do have the first link in my description down below. You DM me the keyword CBM on Telegram and you'll get the information to be able to join my private group where I share all of my own personal trades. Now, you need to also understand that I'm not a financial advisor. I need to disclose this. I'm just a guy on the internet sharing all of his own trades and his overall market analysis. Let's get back to the charts here. Look, Bitcoin is absolutely plummeting. So I want to take you through some of the logic here as to why I went short. First and foremost, this anchored VWAP posed as resistance, which was well within my expectations. However, I'm not going to act like I'm a fortune teller because I actually entered a short on Bitcoin at around $72,200, protecting my position, then getting stopped out at break even. Then I went for a new attempt. I'm very open and transparent about my attempts in this market. And right now, it does seem like Bitcoin wants to go ahead and move lower. So why is this price action extremely interesting for you to consider, and what comes next? We managed to hold on to the value area low, which allowed us to get a significant move to the upside. This range has been established since the beginning of February. Then we managed to pop towards the top of this range, getting that deviation above the top of the range back into the range. And acceptance back in the range is not what you want to see if you're bullish on Bitcoin in the immediate short term. This is actually very similar price action to how I executed my 97K short, which you can see I am still holding on bluffing. So if we go back to this price action, you'll notice that Bitcoin essentially had a pretty solid range here. And let me just put this on the chart. You could see we were chopping around between the range And look at that. We got a very, very nice deviation outside at the top of the range and then acceptance back into the range, ultimately leading Bitcoin to dump much, much further. Some of you guys say TA is bullshit, but guys, being able to identify patterns like this on the chart and knowing that we are in a bear market can allow you to actually make some pretty solid profits in the market if you're considering shorting. Now, of course, I'm just sharing with you what I am personally doing. I have to keep on reiterating that I'm not a financial advisor, but it was very, very clear because in bear markets, we do get rallies, and I'm just trading the market that's right in front of me. Long term, I am a Bitcoin bull, and I will look to accumulate Bitcoin as we head lower. I'll keep you updated as that develops. But you can see that this kind of price action going into $97,000 was essentially my short trigger first time around. Then we established a new range, and ultimately Bitcoin is currently looking quite weak at this point in time. We started losing the value area high here. Next target is the point of control. Then we're going to talk about the value area low. However, you know my base case. I don't think that this all the way down here at $60,000 was the low for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin moves lower than that. Now, I also need you to pay attention to the stock market. The market's just opened as I'm recording this video. We have now officially dropped below our bull market support band. If we start to get daily candle closes below here, things will be looking really ugly for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. Guys, you just need to approach this market in an unemotional manner. This was a very mechanical short that I shared in my community, but I also shared on the YouTube channel. I just look at the charts, and if I get my short trigger, I enter the short with no emotions involved. The unbiased truth, whether you like it or not, is that we're in a bear market. And in bear markets, as I've constantly discussed on the channel, my strategy from a trading perspective has been looking for swing shorts in the market and taking on a couple of scalp longs. But my short positions are much, much larger than any longs that I take in this market. So let's see how this trade plays out. I gave you the logic here. Look, if we go back to previous cycles, which I know some of you don't like when I compare it, but the point is we get these bear market rallies. Take a look at this price action. You're going to get annoyed of me talking about it once more. A drop, a push to the bull market support band, another drop, another push upwards, and another drop, ultimately forming the bear market low of the previous bear market cycle. Then we have this kind of price action, a drop, a push to the bull market support band, another drop, then a nice little relief rally, which is what we saw over the past few days. And now ultimately, I do think that we will be rejecting and moving lower on the higher time frames. Don't ignore the charts. We had other indicators that were helping to support this, not just the stock market, but we saw that tons of cumulative long liquidation leverage started piling into the market. If you don't know me, I'm a contrarian trader. What this means is if the majority is going long, I'm actually looking for new shorting opportunities because we know the market makers like to wreck the majority of people. So on the 30-day time frame, you can see that there's actually still more cumulative long liquidation leverage in the market, which is quite surprising considering we are in a bear market. So I would ultimately expect Bitcoin to be moving lower from here. We have to see how the price action develops as we start tapping into some more significant levels. But right now, obviously, I'm very, very content with this short, and it's starting to look very, very similar to what happened when Bitcoin had a fake out outside of the top of its previous range above $97,000, then dropping. Look, we are in another range. We had a nice fake out, and now it's very, very likely that Bitcoin actually goes ahead and moves lower from here. Remember, if you want to see how I'm trading the market, you can join me in my community. I'm just sharing all of my own personal trades. That's my group. It's free. You're trading with your own capital. So what is next for Bitcoin? We could have another choppy few more days, but I do think that the outcome is us going ahead and moving lower towards these range lows at around $60,000. Then we have some very important levels to consider, which may act as temporary support. We're going into this consolidation zone from the summer of 2024. And you'll notice that during this consolidation zone, we had a pretty significant wick to the downside, which allowed Bitcoin to ultimately pivot and move higher from there. So taking a look at this chart, I would not be surprised if Bitcoin does tap into this level at some point during this bear market. It might not be what you want to hear, but I do think it's something that you must consider. And as we've discussed on the channel and within my community, the moment that Bitcoin starts dropping below here, below $60,000, I would consider DCAing in the lower that we go, because I do think that Bitcoin will have its time to shine once more. This is just typical bear market price action. We get a little bit of relief, everyone gets excited. I've seen this story play out time and time again over the course of even this bear market. Every time we get a little bit of a move to the upside, everyone gets excited. You will get wrecked if you're a bear. Guys, I don't want to be a bear or a bull. I just trade the market that is right in front of me. And that sums up today's quick video. Ultimately, I do think that Bitcoin will be headed lower. So far, it looks like we almost timed the top perfectly once more, but let's see. The market will definitely find its way to humble me. And actually, over the past couple weeks, I attempted a few longs, which got stopped out. As I always say, I will share with you my wins and my losses, but when it comes to swing shorts in a bear market, it makes sense to go a little bit more aggressive, in my opinion, of course. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. As always, I do have my bluff and leverage trading tutorial right here if that interests you, and I'll see you in the next video.